Welcome to the Fans Edge Sports Show podcast, hosted by 216 Mike and your boy E.G. LaFleur. Also hosted by Walt K. Disney. I want to tell you all, happy holidays. Happy July 4th, everybody. This weekend I did a little bit of grilling. I'm probably going to do a little bit more of some grilling. We also hung out at the pool. Talk to me, Diz, E.G., what have y'all been doing this holiday?
Hey, just trying to enjoy this time off. This is the holiday, so enjoying family and hanging out with my girl on the lake, hanging out with our family, doing something real nice this weekend, this long weekend.
That's
Right,
what's
right.
up. Blessings, blessings.
Happy Independence Day to everyone. We did fish this week, so it's just been like a fish fry for us. We don't still doing it now. We'll do it tomorrow as well. So normal stuff, good cookout, good eating, relaxing time, like Did said, enjoying the time off.
Oh
There
yeah,
we
that
go.
fish though.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Hey, y'all on Facebook, I got the link up. I want you all. Hey, Scott, I appreciate you coming in
Thank
Happy
here.
you,
Fourth.
Scott.
We appreciate it, man. But I do have the link up. At the end of the show, I want you all to click that link. I want to hear from you all, the fans. This is why we call it the Fans Edge, because we give you all the opportunity to come on record and go ahead and put your takes out there. I do got some top news, man. I was scrolling through Twitter. Obviously I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I'll tell you this, running back wise, I love running backs, and Adrian Peterson was one of my favorite. But I see that Adrian Peterson versus Le'Veon Bell in a celebrity boxing match July 30th. What's up with that? This came out of
Hey,
nowhere to me.
hey, man. I would want to fight Adrian Peterson, man. The way if he fights the way he runs and the way he play football. There's no way I will fight him. That man, he's one of those guys, man. You can tell he's working hard on that field. He's seems like he's a freak of nature, man. I wouldn't want to fight him, but Le'Veon Bell, he pretty jacked too. He might can fight. They might can throw them hands. You never know.
See, the story on Adrian Peterson that always stuck with me was when someone asked him, "How did you learn to stiff arm?" And he said, "We played tackle on concrete. So I had no
What?
choice but to learn
What?
how." Yes, they played tackle on
Wow.
concrete. So that's how he learned how to stiff arm. And I mean, his stiff arms were always so vicious. Like if memes and social media was as big, like when he was at his prime, I'm telling you, it would be more of them out there, you know. So I mean, it's something that I might have to tap in. I'll be looking for it. Hey, June Ward, we appreciate you for coming out here.
Thanks for
Thank you
tuning
so
in.
much. Yes, we appreciate all the
June Marie,
support.
what's good? What's good? Man,
Yeah.
tackle football on concrete. You gotta be kidding,
Whew.
man.
See, in Cleveland, we pay like sideline pop. So the only concrete that, you had to worry about was someone's driveway, because it was like patch of grass, driveway, patch of grass, so
Yeah.
like that was just the main thing that we made, sure of was never get tackled on that concrete,
Hey man, I'm from the country. We had plenty of grass to work with. We might even take our shoes off out there and get down. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, that's how you know you got that grit in you if you can run on that concrete, that hot
Yeah.
concrete in the
Oh
summer.
yeah.
Hey, that South ain't nothing to play with.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So I do want to talk to you all because we talked about Billy Napier and his open letter to the Florida Gators fans, and we also had Grant Long on NMD Sports. If you haven't went and watched that show, please go back and check that out. They've been going at it. University of Florida and Miami has been going at it in recruiting, but right now, like I said, Miami's coaching staff is the hottest coaching staff in college football. And what they're doing on the recruiting trail in Florida is starting to make the University of Florida just go ahead and take a complete back seat. Like now, they're completely being like the little redheaded stepchild there, man.
Well, first off, let me say this. I did not know the U was that deep on Twitter. I did not know those fans were that crazy. I had my own segment. I was in a space on the Fans Edge page, and I was in a space, and I was talking about the Arkansas Razorback. Those guys chewed my ass up on there. They was,
EG was fighting for his life on there,
you know,
y'all.
but I stood my ground. I stood
He
my
did.
ground. They were
He
telling
did.
me,
He
what
did.
the hell is Arkansas and what is Arkansas? And these guys won 7 games last year, and they're just so confident and so, they feel good about their coaching staff, which I can't blame them because as a Razorback fan, I feel good about mine. And the U is doing it. I believe the state of Florida is wide open for anyone to take over it. Right now, UCF is the best team in Florida, and people should be embarrassed by that. You guys should be embarrassed. You guys should be upset when you hear that. With Florida being there and the U being there, UCF, it should not be the best team in Florida. But I just want to know what it's going to take for them to, for Florida or the U to step it up in recruiting and be that number one team in Florida.
So let me
See,
get this straight. So you're saying that UCF is over the U right now in Florida?
I mean, as far as wins and losses go, as far as winning goes, they were the best team. While Florida State is also down, I forgot to mention them.
Yeah.
So
they they
everyone,
they do have a claim to a national title.
and they, yeah, and they also
Yeah.
have Gus Miles on who did a lot of work at Auburn, and that guy I know him from when he started coaching back in Arkansas a long time ago. But they have something to look forward to. UCF does, and they even had fans on Twitter. I was even talking with a UCF fan, and they were even arguing things. I was like, okay, I didn't know these teams had a good fan base. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. So we got Drizzy Dad saying, first time watching this show. I have to subscribe to listen after hearing E.G. LaFleur disrespect my Buckeyes on Twitter about we playing cupcake schedule. And
uh,
this
disrespect.
this
Hey.
What?
honestly, this takes us right into the next segment of our show, which is conference realignment. We
Hmm.
saw what the SEC did, bringing in, OU, bringing in Texas, and it was just like, hey, what are all of these other conferences gonna do? That those are two main predominantly teams that just went over in the SEC. Man, that makes the SEC even more better. But then, the Big Ten said, hey, you can't leave us out. And what a lot of people don't realize is this also realignment is nothing new to college football.
Right, right.
You had
Right.
teams like Mizzou going into and Texas A&M going into the SEC. You had teams like Rutgers and Maryland going into the Big Ten, and all this market is actually generated off of ESPN, who has the rights to the SEC, and Fox, who has the rights to the Big Ten. And you're seeing that these two programs or these two conferences are becoming the predominant conferences. And literally, I've told you guys this, and I'm going to tell everybody again. There are only going to be two power conferences. The Power Five is done with. It's over with. The Big Ten went ahead. If you haven't heard, they added USC and UCLA. Now,
Yep.
the SEC marketing and the marketing and everything for the SEC is all southern based. Now what you're getting with the Big Ten is they got the New York market, they got the whole Midwest market, and now they got the Cali market. Look, I mean, this is getting crazy. You're talking about the Big Ten going up to where this was before USC and UCLA said, hey, we're going to join the conference. It was rumored that the Big Ten, with their new TV deal, where we're like, hey, it's already the summer season right around the corner. Why hasn't this deal been signed? And now we know why, because it was projected that they were going to get between 80 million to 100 million. It's looking like that 100 million is definitely going to be guaranteed with you adding USC and UCLA. What do you guys think about this conference realignment? I love it. Some people don't.
Where they say where the money reside, where the money reside, USC. They knew what they was doing. They knew what they was doing. Hey,
Right.
go ahead and get that bread. As long as it go back to the students, I'm all for it. As long as the students get the credit and get the play, hey, I'm all for it.
Man, honestly, geographically, the moves doesn't make sense to me. Like UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, geographically, it doesn't make sense. But because if you look more at the Texas joining and the Texas A&M joining the SEC, geographically, it still kind of makes sense. But with this Big Ten move for USC and UCLA, that's just totally different. Like that's just mind blowing the divide and how far those guys will have to travel for games. But it also makes the Big Ten exciting. Like I said, like my guy said, the cupcake scheduling it will eventually stop. You know what I'm saying? I think Ohio State should fear this. I think Lincoln Riley is coming to do some damage to that conference. I think he's coming.
Yep,
You
following
know?
up on. Yep. They said Lincoln Riley knew what he was doing when he switched roles and went over to USC. I listed them as my sleeper team, and I'm still on it. Hey, we're gonna see.
Hey,
See,
USC might be back.
Lincoln Riley, Lincoln Riley's thing is still this. You know, what was his issue at OU? Could never find a defense.
Hmm.
So, I mean, which is one of the issues that Ohio State has had. But OU has fallen. I mean, gotten blown out every time that they go to the playoffs. And I mean, you can say, that the Big Ten plays a cupcake schedule, but I can tell you this: money talk, BS walks. And the SEC and the Big Ten, money wise, has been those two predominant powers. And nobody's paying that much money, or they're not having that much viewership off of being cupcake teams, off of not being a solid conference. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is the SEC and the Big Ten separated themselves as conferences a long time ago from the ACC. That's why the ACC, when they got their ESPN deal, that's till like 2035, it's a crappy deal. It's a crappy deal. It's not something that the SEC or the Big Ten would take. And that just goes to show that the teams that people say in the Big Ten are cupcakes, they're actually not. That goes to show. Even though I'm one of the people who always makes fun of the SEC and things like that, but it goes to show the SEC is no joke. In these two conferences, I think what you're going to have, you got the NFL, the AFC, and the NFC. What you're going to have in the college football playoffs is basically the Big Ten conference and the SEC conference. And guess what, guys? The SEC isn't done. They're not just going to get OU in Texas. And it's being rumored that the Big Ten isn't done either. There's rumors that Oregon and
Oregon has to make a
Washington,
move.
yeah, but right now what they're talking about is, hold on, my man Scott said something. He said Riley
Riley players
players
are leery of him. Don't trust
don't
him.
trust him.
It'd be hard for them to really buy in and play with that championship fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
He Riley just starting though. This is just his first season, so we really got to see what Lincoln gonna do for USC.
I mean,
Hey, I
if
don't.
you
I
actually,
say don't count him out. Don't count him out
I
just yet.
mean, Oklahoma has been very relevant in the playoff era. Oklahoma has been very relevant, even if they don't quite make it, even if they're on the outside looking in. I mean, starting with Baker Mayfield, those guys have been able to play. Like those Oklahoma teams been able to put up points. And if you ask me, that reminds me a lot of an Ohio State team, a team that can score points, but we don't know about their defense. So I think Lincoln Riley's in a good place. I think offense is going to run the Big Ten. I don't know. Michigan is a team that usually have a little better defense than most teams in the Big Ten, but like I said, it's wide open. We know Michigan will
Well,
make a mistake.
Well, the Big
We know
Ten has always been known for defense, actually. I don't think that offense is going to run the Big Ten because that's where Ohio State slipped up, like against that team up north. And then also, I would say
that
that
team up north.
hey, you know how it go. And then I would also say that Ohio State has actually found ways to make their defense work. Like in 2019, where Lincoln Riley has not. And then you're talking about a guy like Alex Grinch, who he just took from OU and then took him to USC. I don't really think that that's going to work. But like I said, I
Hey,
think what this does is Ohio State has been carrying the Big Ten for so long, and I think what this does is this takes a little bit of pressure off of Ohio State. Also, you're talking about if you're adding teams like Oregon and Washington, what that does, you can put them in a pod system. So you'll have 4 teams on the West Coast. They can play each other every single year. And then some of your games, you come over to the East Coast. But guess what? I know, geographically, it might not make sense, but the dollars make sense. And you
the
know
dollars
what?
make
And
sense.
when you know what? You're talking about, think about the NFL. Geographically don't make sense.
The
Teams do it
NFC
all
and
the
the
time.
AFC,
They
it
do
doesn't
it.
make sense.
They do it all the time. They go from the East Coast to the West Coast all the time. And why not go to the Big Ten when you can get that NFL experience? Now, hey, I've played in the cold climate. I've done that travel. I'm ready for this. You know.
Hey, I want to address the comment by Drizzy Dez. I see you saying you don't respect the SEC outside of Alabama and Georgia. I hate people who have that if you haven't won a championship mindset. Like, let me say this. Ole Miss won 10 games, like I always said last year. They won 10 games. LSU is never down and out. You know what I'm saying? They might have had a bad season, but you can never sleep on them. Arkansas, we won 9 games last year, baby. Don't sleep. Like I
can I
said,
can
also,
I can I rebuttal? Can I give you one
uh,
rebuttal?
one second.
And
Also, don't sleep on what Tennessee can do. You know what I'm saying? I got all these schools that I just listed: Tennessee, Arkansas, A&M, Ole Miss.
Right.
I got all 4 of those teams beating everybody in the Big Ten but Michigan and Ohio State. So I don't know why the disrespect. Arkansas did beat Penn State, which would be y'all third toughest team. So what's the problem here? After going 4-4 in the conference, we still beat your third best team in your conference. Come on now, let's
I
give us a
I
little
can
respect. Go ahead,
I can
Mike.
say
It,
this. I think what Drizzy Dez is saying is Arkansas has not showed us any consistency. They had one
You
good
say
year.
this all the
Hold on, hold on, hold
time.
on, hold on. I'll let you finish. That's the only argument. The only argument that you have for Arkansas is off of last year, hoping that they can still have that same success, which is understandable. But I do want to say something. You started off your thing by saying you hate people. You hate when people use the teams and with championships and only talk about championships. But EG, all week in spaces and every time in your SEC arguments, you use championships all the time instead of talking about consistency. Like literally when you bring up LSU, you brought up LSU because they won a national championship in 2019 recently, but you can never make the argument for LSU being consistent, and that's what I think that people are talking about. The argument for the SEC being number one is already there. We know that.
We
The
know
only
that.
the only thing about Big Ten fans is they're just sitting there saying like, "Hey, don't act like we can't match up with the SEC," because when you say screw opinions and you say screw, you go to results and actual on the field, the SEC has beat the Big Ten, and we're talking recent because I know you don't like
Hey,
to go, long. We're talking recent. The SEC has beat the Big Ten, and Big Ten teams have beat the SEC.
let
The
me say this, Mike. All right, so when we talk consistency, you can't bring up a totally different coach, a totally different program. We can't bring up the fact that Chad Morris was the worst coach, worst hire in probably college football history, maybe the worst hire ever. You can't bring up those 2-10 seasons and try to judge us. We have a new coach. We can only piggyback off this right here. I like to go back and reach back into our history sometimes, but like I said, when there's a new coach, it's starting over. You can't say that we're not consistent. I mean, every year we're building on something we did from the previous year. And we added the transfer portal, and I think we did better in the transfer portal than any team in the country not named Alabama. Like I said, we're building off what we have done. That's why I'm talking about our 9-4 season, because it's our coach's third year. Like, we can only build off those two. He's gotten better every single year. He's competed with better teams. He's came in and beat some teams he wasn't supposed to beat already. That's what I have to go off of. I can't be looking at the 2-10 season and say, yeah, we're not consistent. I mean, we have a third year coach. As far as I know, he's been
This
consistent.
is
He's gotten
this is
better.
this is
Hey,
what Ohio. Go ahead, Diz.
I was about to say, if you want to talk about consistency, you can definitely say that the SEC has made it postseason for any bowl game.
Hey, you
Basically,
hear that?
I can think about any SEC team you can bring up. You could say that they have made a postseason bowl game. So, if you talk about consistency, you can even include Tennessee into that conversation as well. So,
I mean, Big Ten teams have made bowl games as well. I mean, it's like I always say, the same argument that you can make for the SEC or
And
whatever,
we're
you
not
can make
arguing
for the
Big
Big
Ten.
Ten. The thing that the rebuttal for Ohio State fans when you bring up, hey, you're talking about, we had a bad coach in Brett Bielema, we had a bad coach in Chad Morris, and you're talking about this is a new coach. The Ohio State fans rebuttal to that, and what some programs can rebuttal to that is, hey, look, we were able to go, Jim Tressel. He won us Ohio
Hey,
State a national
we're not the
championship.
Ohio
Hold
State,
on.
man.
I'm just saying, so when you say, hey, our program, when you talk about the program, it's not the coach. The coach is not the program. That's the thing, when coaches, when they recruit, you don't commit to the coach. You commit to the program. Do you trust
Listen,
the
man.
program?
Listen, man. Recruiting
I'm just
matters,
tell
especially in
you're
the
right.
SEC. Recruiting matters. When you
It
go,
doesn't matter.
when your
No
coach is
conference you're in,
mediocre,
it
no
matters.
one is coming. No one,
Recruiting
no
matters in
one.
every conference.
Exactly. So when you go from a high school football coach as your head coach, I mean, a lot of guys wasn't coming there, but believe it or not, Chad Morris had one of the better recruiting years. He just couldn't coach the players. He was just a
So
terrible
your
coach.
program, so your program is not consistent. Your athletic directors are not
We
consistent.
just
That's the
changed
thing.
athletic directors
Exactly.
recently. So that all of this is new stuff. We're building on new things. We had a bad hire that set us back for a few years. One thing you said, Ohio State is consistent, but one thing they do is consistently underachieve. With all those recruits, with all the players they get, with all the coaches they get, how many titles have y'all won here in the college football era?
One.
Oh, okay. And you guys lose one or two games a year. It looks great, yada yada. But
I mean,
you
you could
guys should
say if
be.
you go back and look at Georgia's seasons, Georgia has lost one or two games every year, sometimes three games. I mean, but you call them one of the top teams, and Georgia has actually been out recruiting Ohio State too. So I mean, we could also say that
And
Georgia
I
has, and
do.
Georgia only has one championship as well.
Before this year,
So we could sit there and say the same exact, like that's what
before
I'm
this
saying.
year, I
The
live in Athens, Georgia, Mike. Before
the
this year,
exact same
before the
arguments that
championship
you make
happened,
for an SEC team,
I
you
argue
can
that
make
here.
for the Big Ten team.
I
That's all
always
we
tell
say.
tell Georgia fans, you guys have been underachieving, underachieving. I tell Georgia fans that all the time.
Okay, so then we can literally sit here and say, since you like to say the SEC recruits the best, has the best, all of that stuff, every SEC
Thank you,
team
Drizzy Dez.
underachieves. Every SEC team underachieves then. But going back to this realignment, like we said, the SEC has added, they're going to add more. Who do we think, what is the next move for the SEC? Who do you think the SEC is possibly going to add, or what would give them a better footprint in college football?
Well, just looking at the teams that are possible, like I don't think there will be any good teams coming to the SEC. I think you'll have to reach out to teams that get a lot of social media engagements. I was torn between the 2 points as an Ohio State fan and a Tennessee employee. Yeah, my guy Kellen Blanchard, he just got a job at the University of Tennessee, man. Shout out to him. That's big. he want to come on the show one day. He want to speak a few words. I really appreciate you stopping by, bro. But like I was saying, what teams can you reach out to besides a team that's thriving on the social media engagement side? I can't really think of teams that'll come in and be a threat because all the tougher teams are already there. But
So from the SEC, I mean, when you're talking about adding a team, you're talking about which teams is going to make you the most money. So like, yeah, social media maybe, but right now you're looking at TV markets. Like we said, ESPN is driving this and Fox is driving this, right? So you're going to look at, what teams are driving you. A lot of people have been talking about, the SEC is going to grab, teams like Clemson or all of these teams from the ACC. But I'm going to tell you why I think the SEC needs to start looking into getting they instead of letting Oregon and Washington come to the Big Ten, I think that the SEC needs to go ahead and enter that fight for that. And the reason why is because I feel that they need to go ahead and tap into that market. Like I said, already you have a regional. The SEC is a southern-based regional broadcasting, whereas now the Big Ten has now the West Coast market, and you got the East Coast and in the Midwest. So as a region and nationally, what would make that? I think that would help the SEC out even more money wise, because that's what you're not going on realignment without talking like who's bringing us the most cash in, you
right,
know.
right.
Right.
And
And
what teams do you see? And I like what my guy
I like
said, Clemson and North
Drizzy.
Carolina.
Yep.
Clemson could very well be an SEC school. That would look right. That would only be right if Clemson could join. But I feel like Clemson likes the ACC because that's where they can thrive at. But as far as the money goes, I believe Clemson could be one of those schools. When I think of a school joining the SEC, it's one of those schools that make those big time games. And I said social media engagement earlier, but like that's the same thing as far as the top TV schools. All the teams that get a lot of time on TV are the teams that get a lot of social media engagements as well. So I would like to see what teams could come to the SEC. North Carolina, I don't know. I'm still skeptical. I don't know if they bring in viewers like that because I only watch them when they play a Miami or a Clemson or a tougher team. You know what I'm saying? But who knows?
I think North Carolina would probably be more of one of those Big Ten teams, because see, the thing about the Big Ten is they're, because what a lot of people don't know is the Big Ten got the offer from Texas and OU first to come over, right? But the Big Ten was like, no, we're not going to take OU because they're not an AAU member, right? So Texas was like, hey, we'll go to the SEC with an OU. Boom, they did that. Now you're talking about USC, UCLA, AAU members. You're talking about a team like North Carolina is an AAU member. Some things that's going to hold some of these teams back from possibly joining the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is big on cancer research,
Right,
things
right,
like
and
that.
they big
So
on those focus
and,
schools like
and yeah,
that.
and academics. Now, the question and the thing is the Big Ten is supposed to be waiting on is to see what Notre Dame is going to do. Now, Notre Dame has, their rights is held by NBC and the ACC. Like we said, the
Yep.
ACC deal isn't up till like 2035. Obviously, there's some talks, going behind with the lawyers, because how much will the buyout have to be? Because think about this. Notre Dame's football is independent, but a lot of their other sports is ACC, right? So, I mean, there could be some type of loophole that Notre Dame can work out. I know Notre Dame fans are like, Notre Dame's not going anywhere. We want to be independent. We raise this money. But when you're talking about Notre Dame, NBC's only paying you freaking 15 million
Yeah.
annually. You're talking about schools getting 100 million annually, and I'm telling you, if you're
Right.
not in the SEC or you're not in the Big Ten, you're about to get left behind. You
And
need to join now because those facilities, the way NIL is going, if you're not making that extra 100 mil, I don't know where you're gonna be.
Oregon, Oregon
right.
is big on money. Oregon is they're bag chasing. I think Oregon, like my guy said, they want the Big Ten. I think it's only right if Oregon go to the Big Ten. They would never go to the SEC and just be down for that amount of years. I think because we know who's going to win the SEC for the next few years or so. We know who's going to compete for those titles. I think with it being so open that they should go to the Big Ten. They should get that money that the Big Ten is offering, and also being able to compete sooner than later.
Oh yeah. And Mike, exactly back to what you were saying, especially like NBC and ACC, because you got the ACC network. I feel like some of these other conferences are trying to dethrone ESPN, in the SEC conference. So I feel like some of these teams could possibly team up and go
And
against the SEC just to make more money for those broadcast channels.
right,
And here's
kept.
another thing. Oh,
Hey,
go ahead, EG.
my guy said take some potential candidates to join the Pac-12. Man,
Yeah,
the
I was gonna get
Pac-12
to
is
that.
looking so like they're looking so out of the race right now. Like I don't know who would want to go to the Pac-12. I think Utah's about to take over that conference, I guess, if they can stay consistent. But what teams do y'all see joining the Pac-12? It's like they're almost going extinct right now. They're not making no noise. No one is talking out of the Pac-12. We're not hearing about major TV deals right now. What's going on with the Pac-12? I don't know.
So to finish off Disney's point, what I was going to say is what a lot of people don't realize is Amazon is trying to get into this market as well. Amazon is already getting into the NFL market and already has hired Kirk Herbstreit. You hear talks about Apple also getting into this market and tapping in. So we're literally talking about more and more money as well that's going to be thrown out there. With the Pac-12, I mean, you had USC. I mean, the Pac-12 deal was so bad where you basically had tiers. You know what I'm saying? And USC was the top tier regardless, even though they didn't even make the CFP. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm gonna tell you why, Kellen. I don't think anybody's going to join the Pac-12 because their deal is up in 2024. You don't have the USC, the UCLA market to help you out anymore. I think what you heard from people like Heather Dinich was hearing. She was talking to other ads from other schools, and they're panicking. They're trying to figure out, hey, how do we get out of our deal and try to hop in on one of these other conferences? Like, I literally think the ACC is going to dissolve. Like I've been telling you guys, the Power Five is no more. We talked on our show about the Big 12, and I told you guys, I think the Big 12 is going to end up becoming a group of five school. And like you said, EG, is anybody going to join the Pac-12? No, nobody's joining the Pac-12. The best thing probably for the Pac-12 would be for the Pac-12 to potentially,
Merge
join
with the Big
with the
12.
or the ACC. But
Okay.
still, but still, what money teams are you gonna have?
That's the question that I
Like
don't know the answer to.
and those TV deals aren't gonna be the same as the SEC and the Big Ten. So really, you're still gonna be left behind unless you hop on there. And
I
I'm
think
hearing that the SEC and the Big Ten are probably gonna cap out at like maybe in between 16 to 20 teams. So it's like if you don't hop in and get your spot, you're basically going to be a group of five team, and it's going to be harder for you to make the CFP.
honestly, I don't want it to be these two super conferences like that. Like I think the Big 12 to make some noise, they need to merge. I think they need to merge with that Pac-12. I think they need to do something that makes the conference tougher and better because the money, I feel like no one is talking about the money in the Big 12. No one is talking about moves in the Big 12 or the Pac-12. Like it's like the conference is non-existent. Like my guy Drizzy Dead said, he said, man, the conference, they can go ahead and shut it down, man. I don't want it to be that way. I want to have tough conferences all over because I like for college football playoffs to change. I like for it to change. I like for new teams to make it. And Washington, man, they're a team that was making noise when they had Buda Baker and those guys. They were making noise. They went all the way to the playoffs. They made it in there. They was a threat to the title, even though they couldn't get it done. I don't want to see, what I'm saying, those same teams every year. I'm tired of Ohio State, man. I'm sorry, Mike, but I'm tired of those guys. I'm not tired of Alabama because that's just, Alabama is the standard. That's what we want to see. You know what I'm saying? We want to see somebody dethrone them. We want to see how good they can be. Those are the things we just
Because
like
when
to
your
see.
team don't make it, that's the one team you can bandwagon on.
No, no, I'm just saying, I'm tired of the same teams, man. I'm tired of the same
All right.
teams.
Yeah.
But the great thing about what's happening is the college football playoff is about to expand, right? So let's
Right.
just say with the two super conferences, I don't think you're going to see the same teams. If it expands to 12 teams, right? You're talking the
12
best.
teams?
Let's say a
That's a
12-team
lot.
playoff. They're talking
That's a month.
between 8 to 12, right? 8
Yeah.
to 12. You're talking about, and to be honest, I'm going to tell you why I was against expansion, because when you really, maybe 5 and 6, I was okay with maybe expanding it to 6.
I'm
But
good
when you
with
start
6.
looking past at 7 and 8, go back and look at those teams. You know, they're not really winning the championship. And sometimes you could say that about 5 and 6. Even my Ohio State teams that was at 5 and 6 wasn't winning the national championship. But now you're going to get to see the top 4 from each of those conferences. Like, it's
Yeah.
literally like we can literally have, like, I hate this because I'm all y'all know I'm on record for saying this. I don't like bringing the NFL into college football or anything like that. But literally, that's what we will have, and we'll have more playoff styles. So those underdogs, like you were saying, that you want to see get that chance, they'll
I
get that chance.
I think
You
if you
know?
expand to 12 teams, we'll soon be a playoff team, baby. Go Razorbacks. We'll soon be a playoff team.
Yeah,
And
you.
and what
I
it's gonna
All the
do
honestly
chances
is
you can get.
no. With
what it's
even
gonna
8,
do is
Arkansas can get that chance.
with 8, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna make some of the good teams eliminate each other, and one of those
Yep.
sleeper teams from the bottom will be able to jump up and play a super great team. And if they're from two different conferences, that can still be a great game. But we hate when it's like, SEC versus SEC school, because it's like we know who will win. But when you have an SEC school versus a Big Ten school, that's anybody's game, or Pac-12 school. That's anybody's game versus a Big Ten school or Big 12 school. I like the thought of 6, but I
Yeah,
mean
we
12.
I
If
like
it was
6, and you
12,
we
give the top 2 teams a bye week.
yeah,
we
I like that.
we gotta be careful because we're gonna go chart into NBA territory, and you know how long they finals last. So that's the
Yeah,
only
and
thing I'm concerned about.
I feel like it'll eliminate, like, if it expands that far, it'll eliminate conference championships, maybe. You know what I'm saying? So it wouldn't be as hard on them. And I think they'll probably increase the games by 1 or 2. Arkansas playoff team, pass me the
Uh,
weed, to
Oh,
Hey man, listen. Last year, Arkansas made it to up to number 8 in the country. We were number 8 in the country at once. I know you probably didn't see that. When we played Georgia, we were number 9 in the country. I know you probably don't remember that, but hold on. Let me remind you. Let me show you something. Just to make you know what I'm saying? Just to make it better. Let's go. Let's go. We are back.
hey,
Come on,
hey,
man.
the fans' edge will be at Arkansas versus Texas A&M.
We will
It
be
will
there.
be at
yep.
Jerry's World. So if there are any Arkansas fans out there, definitely come find us. Texas A&M fans, come find us. We will be there. We
Hey,
will
we
be
back,
streaming.
baby.
Yeah,
Hey,
we'll
Drizzy
be there.
Dez, put me on record. 10 wins for the Razorbacks next year.
Hey, you heard it
What's your
first on that fans edge.
All right, Kellen
Hey man?
Nancy. He said, Mike, what's your take on our upcoming season? I'm big on Henderson and our explosive offense. I don't know if I can say the same about our defense.
That's what we
So
talk about every week about Ohio State. It's that
yeah,
defense in
I
order.
I will yeah, I'll go through this, I'll give my take on this real quick. We have talked about this on previous shows. I'm not worried about the offense. I think now that we don't have 4 tackles on the offensive line, I think that we'll actually be able to run the ball a lot better and do a lot more better zone blocking for Trevion Henderson. Um, Also, Trevion, his body wasn't even able to take a full college football season. So I think that's because you could see at the end of the year he started to kind of slow down a little bit instead of getting stronger like you saw from Zeke. But Zeke didn't do it until his sophomore year. So you see that's one thing. The wide receivers I have no issues of. I think we'll see C.J. Stroud use his legs a little bit more. And from what I'm hearing from the defense in practice, they've shown him different looks. So I think he'll be ready for almost any defense that he faces. When you talk about the defense, you're talking about Jim Knowles, one of the best coaches on defense last year, came into Ohio State. I honestly believe, like, you're talking about a guy who was a linebackers coach and defensive coordinator, took a quarterback, developed him into a starting linebacker, had linebackers who were All-Americans as well. And you're talking about guys who were 3 stars to no stars. Now he's at Ohio State. Ohio State has given him the biggest support staff that they have ever done. Ohio State has never hired this many GAs. Ohio State has never hired this many analysts until now. And one thing that Jim Knowles said is, he said, at OSU, at Oklahoma State, he didn't have all the resources that he needs. So it did take him 3 years. Because a lot of people are saying, going back and like, hey, his defense regressed in his first year, second year. It didn't get better until like year 3 and stuff like that. But he didn't have all the tools, and they weren't able to support him financially at Oklahoma State the way that they are at Ohio State. So what you're going to see is you see a whole new. He got the best defensive line coach in America, in Larry Johnson. He got Tim Walton, who has already been backed by Jalen Ramsey as the best defensive back coach that he has had in his entire football career. I think what you're going to see is something special. If you remember 2014, Keelan, Chris Ash came in. You could tell the defense was pretty good. But as the season went on, they got better and better and better. And I think that this is something that you can see from Jim Knowles.
So one thing I will say though, Ohio State quarterback better not get off to a slow start this season. They better be better than last season. Y'all were calling for that boy head first and second game. You guys better start out like you got a Heisman Trophy guy out there.
If you just looked at what C.J. Stroud, he's just throwing balls around at the Elite 11. Dude hit a 50-yard bomb directly on target. Then threw, I want to say, like a 20 to 30-yard ball where, I don't know, Ryan Day, when he came to Ohio State, he introduced it called the 1-incher. And basically it's like 1 inch above, like the linebacker. If a linebacker was to put his hands up, can you 1 inch and get that ball above his hands to your wide receiver? And C.J. Stroud just threw 2 balls from 2 different positions directly on target. I thought that was crazy. I think C.J. Stroud is probably the best quarterback that we have seen at Ohio State. And I think that's saying a lot from, the passive performance we see from Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields.
Hey, Drizzy Dez, don't sleep on my Razorbacks, baby. Don't sleep.
Drizzy Dez said our linebackers is our problem. They tackle like barbecue chicken. And like I said, man, this is the first time Ohio State has had a linebackers coach since 2014 when they won a national championship with Luke Fickell. They haven't had a good linebackers coach. Some people will say Billy Davis was a good linebackers coach. It was just the defensive coordinator. But we did not see him recruit good. We didn't have good linebacking recruiting. And, already you can start seeing the guys that Jim Knowles is going after. And I honestly believe, like I said, Jim Knowles is a linebacker machine. He turned a quarterback, a guy who was recruited as a quarterback. He turned this guy into a linebacker. You know what
Let's
I'm saying?
not turn this into an Ohio State show.
Yeah, honestly, I'm done. I'm just going off of what hey, if the fans ask for it, this is a fan show. And if the fans ask for it, we give it to them. You know
Remember,
what I'm saying?
we got other conferences out there.
We got other conferences out there.
We got other conferences out there.
Other teams out there.
If they wanted to talk Vanderbilt, we'll talk Vanderbilt.
We're not talking Vanderbilt ever. Yeah. We'll never let y'all put the SEC to shame like that. Come on.
What?
Hey, I say Vanderbilt make it to a bowl game this year.
Hey, All you
I
have to
think
do
it's
is win
time to
6
end the show
games.
now. Hey, get him,
Woo!
Drizzy. Drizzy got you. This is a
This is
fan
a
show,
fan show,
EG.
EG.
Hey.
You're right. You're right. I agree with that. But hey, if you want to talk Kentucky or Arkansas or A&M, holler at me, man. Holler at
Hey,
me.
we'll be talking South Carolina soon. I want to see what South Carolina's going to be about.
And we
And
got we got we got Spencer Rattler on our schedule. You know, when I think of them, that's all I'm thinking about. And one player isn't going to make pros at other positions. We have guys that are potentially professionals at way more positions than South Carolina. I'm not
oh
worried
no,
about
they
those
also
guys.
got a top. They also got that tight end. What's his name? Austin Stoenberger.
Hey,
Uh, Brad.
hey, let
We
me tell
gonna
you about
see.
Arkansas. Next year, that defense is going to be the toughest it's been in a while. In a
Okay.
while. When I tell you we got starters from nearly every SEC school last year, hey, the transformation is going to be real. Wait till you see that guy Drew Sanders running at people. Wait till you see that man next year.
We got to
Wait
set
till you
up an
see it.
Arkansas interview so we can go a little bit more in depth with Arkansas. I'm gonna get somebody on here to talk
I
some
got some
Arkansas
guys too.
football.
I just got to let them
Um,
know to join the show. I got plenty of Arkansas guys on my feed. I just got to let them know to come on the show, man. I got older fans, young fans, you know,
no, I'm
all
talking
type.
about like getting somebody who to interview who covers the team.
Yeah, I can get one guy I know for sure. He just said he been busy going on road looking at recruits and stuff like that, but I know I can get him. I talked to him recently as well. My guy, Danny West. I'm gonna try to see if I can get him on here.
All right. Well, we definitely have some interviews scheduled. We will be having an Ohio State interview going up with Chris Drew. If you aren't familiar with Chris Drew, go look him up on Twitter. Uh, Dude that knows what he's talking about when it comes to football. Definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to Ohio State, and giving you guys a little bit of nuggets here and there. Disney, do you got anything else for the fans?
Hey, just make sure y'all continue to like, subscribe, hey, retweet, add us all week. We going into spaces on Twitter, so y'all go ahead and get it, EG as well as Mike. And make sure y'all stay tuned for the highlights for the rest of the week and every Sunday. Just meet us back here.
Hey, and we also need to, start us a space because the fans edge has been diving into a lot of spaces of different conferences and different schools. We need to do us a space, address our conferences that we want to talk about, change it up, talk about each and every conference, switch teams, talk about the best players at each position in each conference, those type of things. We need to start us a space, and we need you guys to join up and retweet that and get in there when you can. Hopefully next week we can get us a space up doing that. What was that, South Carolina? I'm not worried about their team. They're not that good. Spencer Rattler, the most overhyped
I can
quarterback I
agree
have
with
ever
that take.
seen.
I do
You
think
know,
Spencer Rattler is overhyped. I
he
agree.
he he was hyped for sure last season. Like they thought he was a god last year, and he throws like what 3 or 4 picks in one game. Everyone's trying to kick him out the stadium.
Yeah. Say we
It's
gonna
tough.
see, man. I'm ready. I'm ready. Also, going to be having a kickoff show at my house, so I'm excited about that. September 3rd. I want to thank you all for listening to the Fans Edge. Again, like they said, make sure you hit that notification bell, so that way when we go live, you know right away. And also on Twitter and Facebook, when we go live, we post a link up. And we want you all to click that link because at the end of the show, we would love for you to hop on here and be on record. Just click that link. It will let you come into StreamYard and we will put you on the show, let you get your takes on here. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. And peace.